All right, I think we're live. Can everybody hear me? Okay, I think uh, someone says yes in the chat, just so I know that we are live and everybody can hear me just fine. Uh, yes, cool, awesome. So first of all, thank you all so much for attending our Fellow 3.2 launch. We're super excited to have that out there for you. Everybody works so hard. This is like the one event at Fellow where everybody in the company, from like customer success to product engineering to design to marketing, everybody in the entire company works really, really hard to make this day possible. It's something that we're super excited about, and hopefully you've had a chance to see a lot of the features that you have been requesting. Again, a large part of the way we figure out what to work on next is based on feedback that we hear from you, the users. And so please keep sending us that stuff. We read every message. We look at every request. We take this stuff very, very seriously. We're extremely customer centric. So please keep doing that. I do want to answer questions. So if you do have any questions about anything, the product today, the future of where we're going, please add them into the chat here. I'm looking through it as we go through, and yeah, I will answer what I can. So the one question that we had from the chat from the other section was, if you have materials that need to be read before a meeting and you attach them, can these be included as a requirement in section? So this is a really interesting question, right? So we just launched our sections feature, and the cool thing about sections is you can get different people who are attendees of that meeting to complete different tasks or add to specific parts of an agenda. So I know, for example, for some meetings, especially for some very official meetings, like think about a board meeting, for example, you might want everybody to read a bunch of documents. I know we run our board meetings at Fellow on Fellow. And so the thing that you can do is you can definitely create a section and then attach a document to that section. And then what you can do is you can create a checkbox that is a required, that is something required for everybody in the meeting to actually do. And if they check that checkbox, you can assume that they have read the document. So you can call out the section and say, read this document, and then check the box in front of your name to indicate that you have, and then people can go ahead and do that. And this is a really great way to make sure that everybody has done the reading, prior to meeting. Of course, this is a little bit very, like, it's an official way of doing things. And for some meetings, for city and state meetings, or for board meetings, this is something that you might want to do. And you can definitely now use Fellow to make that a lot easier to make happen. So let's see the next question that is being asked. So from Andrew, question I have is surrounding further integrations. Are you seeing more opportunity to integrate with 365? We currently use your Teams integration and love it. Would love to see more. Yeah, definitely. So we have definitely historically done a little bit more to integrate with the Google ecosystem. But a larger and larger part of our users are coming from the Office ecosystem. Obviously, we have our MS Teams integration and we work with Office 365. But we're definitely keen to do more than that, Andrew. If you let us know what kind of things you'd like to see, we'll definitely make that happen. I know, for example, some of the things that we've been talked to about include, for example, integration with Microsoft Tasks as being one of the integrations with the Office 365 ecosystem. You can kind of do that today through our Zapier integration, but of course, like, we can and will over the course of time do more. But I'm curious to see. Oh, you're saying SharePoint is a good place to go. Definitely. So this is actually, it's interesting because you mentioned SharePoint, because a lot of these almost like document repository type systems, SharePoint, we use Confluence internally, for example. These are really good places. And what it turns out is that Fellow, as a meeting tool, starts to house a lot of knowledge within the organization. And so one of our goals is eventually to integrate with all of these different knowledge management systems, so that if there is information inside a Fellow that needs to live in a kind of forever place and be stored someplace, that we will build integrations for that. One of the things that we have, for example, today is a Google Drive integration. So this is a powerful one, but for sure we can definitely do some things like SharePoint, over the course of time. So thank you for indicating that. And actually, just a fun fact for anybody who doesn't know this: bottom left of your screen, there's a question mark icon inside of Fellow. And if you click on that, you might have to scroll down a little bit. It might be hidden at first glance, but you click on the check mark, you scroll down, and there's actually a place where you can suggest features and also vote on other people's suggestions. Again, like, this is a primary source where we get a lot of inspiration. So please make sure to check that out as well. So, yeah. So the other questions that are being asked: is there any consideration on integrations with meeting transcription tools? Yes. So, meeting transcription is not something that we specifically focus on. There are a lot of companies that focus on meeting transcription. I think, like, the way that we think about Fellow as a product is, if you have a horrible meeting, you can transcribe it. It's not going to change the fact that it was a horrible meeting. And our goal is to make every meeting super effective and delightful. So that's kind of like the part of the spectrum that we focus on. But other companies do a really good job at transcription, and we think transcription is very useful. So we are actually in partnership talks with at least one other company in this space, and we are definitely investigating it. And it will be something that we include into Fellow through partnerships with others. But it is something we're working on, and thank you for voting for that as well. Okay. Technical team at Shopify is very excited about tagging. I do agree with that. I think tagging is actually going to change the way that people, the way that you use meeting software in general. It's just such an interesting concept that you would be able to tag certain things and potentially have people who didn't attend the meeting, but were invited to the meeting, of course, because of privacy. If you were invited to a meeting, but you didn't get a chance to attend, the fact that you can just go and see that type of information is extremely powerful. One of our goals is to make sure that only those that need to be part of the meeting are actually part of the meeting. And so one of the best ways you can do that is, of course, take amazing notes, clear takeaways and action items, but also make that information easily parsable. So if you are following certain tags in your meetings, you can just be kept aware of what's happening. Okay, let's look at some other questions. So is there a way to link key results to show up in my action item? So this is a really, really good question. And, the fact of the matter is that, we just launched OKRs as a beta feature, not long ago in our last release. And this release, we did a bunch of upgrades to it. We really like OKRs as a framework, but goal setting, of course, in general. And we think that the best place to discuss those goals is within your meetings. And that's why we believe in a vertically integrated experience. And in terms of our action items specifically, our action items, the way that they kind of function today is that they're kind of isolated. They're tied to the meeting. And what's really cool is you can copy an action item to other meetings and link them. But action items are not really linked to anything else. One of the things that we're talking about actively at Fellow right now, towards the latter half of the year, is to do a revamp and almost say an upgrade, just like we've constantly improved other features in the product, an upgrade on the action items. And there's a lot of ideas on that users have told us about. But one of the ones I'm excited about is, of course, relating action items to other parts of the software. And objectives is definitely a place that you can link action items to, but there might be other things that you can link them to as well. Again, in no particular order, and we're obviously just investigating this, but you could see an action item being related to an item of feedback that you got, as an example. So there are a lot of places that it can be related to. And I think our next step, now that objectives is in the product, we want to make sure that action items are a little bit more connected to other parts of the product as well. It is a very difficult thing to do. So it's kind of hard to imagine when we will figure out how to do this really well, and when it can make something like this can make its way into the product. But rest assured that it is something that we're thinking about, is like, how do we make action items further integrated into the rest of the product. And I have to say an internal shout out to Michaela. We're getting so many questions, and she's updating our internal Slack and giving me the latest and greatest of what I should focus on answering next. So thank you, Michaela, for that. Is it on the roadmap to automatically link meeting recordings in Google Meet to Fellow Notes? This is really interesting. We think about this a lot. There's a lot of things that Google Meet does that we can integrate into directly into Fellow. What's interesting is that in a hackathon, one of our team members actually built something very interesting where it almost took some transcription data from Google Meet and put it inside of Fellow. We've also talked about the meeting recordings as being something we can integrate. So we've definitely thought about it. It's not in the let's do this in the next 2 weeks type of roadmap, but it's definitely something that we've talked about, and we've even experimented with inside of our hackathons, which we do internally, which are always super fun. So yes, I will say that we will do more and integrate more with Google Meet and other tools like MS Teams and so on and so forth. So we're definitely thinking about it. Okay, so the other integration requests, Harvest Time Tracker as being one of them. That's super interesting. I haven't personally checked out Harvest Time Tracker, but what I will say is one of our goals is, if you run effective meetings, we hope that you can actually save time over the course of time. So, and the one of the things that we do is, if you notice during the demo, we had to have an end meeting button. And so if you click on the end meeting button, our hope is that we can start to track how long your meetings actually took and how much time you potentially saved in like ending a meeting early. So that is probably our next step, is to take that data from that button click and some other things. So for example, if you close a tab, or if we have a way of knowing how long you spent in the meeting, the first step is to surface that information to you in an analytics framework. And one of the things that we care a lot about is like a meeting health score and meeting analytics. So the first step would be to show that to our users through the product. And then once we have that, then I think we can start to think about where else we can push data like that. And when we get there, we'll definitely check out Harvest. I mean, it sounds super interesting. As a productivity enthusiast, I'm curious to see what kind of things it does. So I will personally definitely check that out as well. Okay, so I think we have time for one more question, so we can end on the hour. The question is, what is your opinion on nested folders for other streams in order to help better organize them as a storage of team knowledge? This is a really good question. So I think, when we first started Fellow, as a company, and, we're definitely growing, our first goal was, let's make Fellow easy to use so that everybody can easily learn the product and start using it. But now that we've been, we're launching Fellow 3.2 today. So there's a lot of people using Fellow. There's millions of meeting notes on there. And so now we're starting to think about, hey, we have all these amazing users and they're using the product. How do we make all this stuff more accessible? So tags today was, hopefully you start to see that as a trend and a pattern. We're launching things like tags to help you organize the information that's already in Fellow better. And other integrations, like for example, integrating with a Confluence or a SharePoint, that will be in the next stream of like, how do we also make sure that certain information can make its way into other systems. And of course, then the next thing is, how do you organize the folders even more? So another fun fact, during a hackathon, we did have an example of someone on our team actually built a foldering system for streams and allowed you to organize those things. So we're definitely thinking about it. We have some prototypes. But with all these things, anything that involves a major interface change, we are like very cautious about it because it impacts everyone. We're definitely thinking about it. I personally would benefit a lot from having that. So that's one of the things that I think you will see. And it's something that our design team is actively looking at and thinking about new ways to organize that information. Again, it used to be that our first get people on the platform. Now people are on the platform. How do we get everything to be super organized? Okay, so I think we're 1 minute over time. I don't want to keep everybody up further, but I just wanted to say a huge thank you to all of our users. You know, the very fact you joined us on this launch today, using our product, championing it, all the, to the extent that we're successful at what we do, it's because this is really a partnership between us, the company, and you, the users. What we're trying to do is make your lives easier. So please continue to communicate feedback with us. We're super attentive. We want to hear how you're using the product, how to make it better. You can message me on Twitter. I'm just at Aydin on Twitter, also on LinkedIn. Message anyone on our teams. And, on behalf of everybody here at Fellow, a very sincere thank you to you all. See you at the next launch.